Hello everyone and welcome to The Opinion Piece, the show where I give my unfiltered, unscripted opinions on a gaming-related topic. Today's topic. Now, this seems to be a thing that happens with new games, with new big games looming on the horizon or around the corner or whatever you want to call it. And Spider-Man could not seem to dodge this one, and that is accusations of downgrading. Now, for all of us that play video games, we all know what this is. Don't need to go, in depth and explain that. And this game is getting hit hard by that. Now, as of recording, the game is several days away from launch, and to sort of celebrate that, a number of promotional videos have been released to show off more aspects of the game and what we can really expect from it in a more in-depth way. And that has given a lot, and for people that have way too much time on their hands or are super hyped for the game, that's giving them the opportunity to basically sort of compare and contrast previous looks at the game to what's being shown now. And that has leading a lot of people to make the claims that the game has been downgraded. In my research, a notable example that I found was this post on Reddit showing one of the more notable scenes from the E3 2017 demo, and one of the recent promotional videos showing the same shot but from the final build of the game. And at face value, looking at this image, you can clearly see there is a big difference between the two, but I can tell you right now, downgrading is not the issue here. It's not the big change here. Before I really go into that, I'm just going to try to keep before I really provide my explanation, I'm going to try to keep this as general as possible, because I'm really tempted to get really ranty about this, but I want to try to keep this as contained and just to the point as possible. So putting the image back up, yes, you can clearly see there's a very apparent difference between the two, excluding the puddle. I will get to that later. But yeah, if you look at the picture right here, the big difference between these two shots is not because the game has been downgraded in any way, shape, or form. The secret is, it's the lighting. Yes, you heard me right. The fucking lighting is the difference between these two shots. Not that the game has been downgraded. To basically go a little bit more in depth in that, if you look at this at the frame of the 2017 demo, you can see, yes, it's a little bit colorful, vibrant. It's got a bit of a stylized, sort of kind of surreal realism sort of look to it, if that's a way of phrasing it. I know that sounds terrible, but that's just kind of the way I'm putting it, just if you get what I'm saying. Has a very visual aesthetic to it, whereas the frame of the same shot from the 2018, the final release of build of the game, it's got a bit more of a natural, realistic look to it. That's the difference, and all of that ties to that is a change in lighting. In the demo, you have this particular set of lighting to make the game look this way, whereas in the final build, you have modified lighting to make it look that way. That's all there is to it. And you can tell, if you look closely and observe it, you'd realize that that's all there is to it. From the little things to from the little things of how that lighting makes the scene, brightens the scene, to how the lighting refracts and reflects the characters. All of that shit has been changed from the way it looks in the 2017 demo to the way it looks in the final build of the game. And it's not just, and all you have to do is just kind of, look back and do these comparisons. That's all there is to it. I mean, if you, that's something that I noticed, looking back at all of the all of the material released publicly for the game, showing out in various trailers or gameplay demonstrations, I've noticed that to be a big key variable here is the lighting, and that seems to be the really annoying factor that people tend to overlook about this kind of thing. What's called downgrading is really just changes of lighting circumstantially, whether it's been changed very internally on the technical side of it during development, or just lighting in the actual game world itself. A lot of these comparisons and shots that I'm seeing are not factoring this in. People who are making this claim of downgrading are not factoring in that the lighting is the key here. Is that, you have these two different shots. You have these you have the same shot, but you have that look drastically different. Oh, that must be downgrading. No, factor in the fact that the lighting is significantly different. Look at how the way lighting is basically affecting the subjects in each frame. In the 2017 demo, it has a very particular visual aesthetic to it, and then in the final release of the game, it has a very particular a very different visual aesthetic to it, if that makes sense. And that applies to the entirety of the game. All of these comparisons that I'm seeing, I'll probably put some here and there on the screen, are not factoring this in. It's merely saying like, oh, because they look so drastically different, the game must have been downgraded. No, that's not what that is. It's just the lighting. It's the simplest way and like simplest, most repetitive way I can put that is the lighting. And I highly encourage going back to look at all of that stuff and seeing that's and seeing that. Just look at it through a different lens. Not literally, just you know what I mean? Just look at it differently and think like, maybe the game isn't actually being downgraded technically. It's actually just a modification in the lighting, or circumstantially the lighting in the game world, whereas characters look a certain way in this lighting will look different in this lighting. It's as simple as that. One of the biggest details that I can point out is probably the way Spider-Man's costume looks. One thing that I noticed in probably between like in 2017, during the promotional materials for 2017, the 2017 demo from E3 and the Paris Games Week trailer, the costume had this very sort of shine, almost latex look to it that looked, like the costume still looks cool, but it has this really weird shimmer glow to it that kind of makes it look a little bit like impractical, kind of uncomfortable looking. And that's something that actually was something that was brought to note. A lot of people did note that, and Insomniac's response to that was they're still making modifications and changes to the lighting. Now, if you look at press materials and videos from 2018, you can see that they've addressed that. You can see that the color, that the way the suit looks, it looks a lot more practical. It has a bit more of a conventional fabric look to it in all of those shots and all of that footage. And that's the visual aesthetic that they were going for. Not that. And that's a more particular example of that. But at the end of the day, that big difference between 2017 or even shots from, from that first trailer from 2016 to material, to footage and pictures and materials from now is not that the game has been downgraded, it's the lighting. That's all there is to it. All you have to do is do a comparison and look at it through that lens, and you'll completely see what I'm getting at here. Like, if what I'm saying right now doesn't seem to make any sense or seems like complete bullshit. Now, going back to the puddle that a lot of people seem to also be making a big fuss about, that like, oh, the game's being downgraded because this one puddle isn't in this particular area of the game. That also kind of just ties into the changes, much like the changes with the lighting. It's changes to the game world as a variable of the development cycle. That's all that is. As a game is being worked on and developed, it's obviously going to be going through a lot of different changes over the course of its development. Changes made, big and small, to better fit the unified vision of the development team and what they intend to do with, what they want to do with the game, how they want to make it look, and whatnot, to better match their ideal vision of what they think will be the best possible product that they're going to be putting in the hands of us, the people who play it. So the fact is, and that's all that is just like, it's not like, oh, we removed this puddle of the game because we're pressed for space, because technical limitations, we have to downgrade the game and, make it look worse because we hyped how visually great this game was going to look. No, that's not what it is at all. It's just making changes to the game world, and maybe even the characters as well, big and small, to better fit what they're trying to go for with the overall vision of the game. And the same thing can be said with changes to characters and changes to set pieces. If you look back at other previous material, trailers, and do comparisons with that, you notice that the outfits for some characters are changed. Like from the Paris Games Week trailer, trailers and footage now, you'll notice that the outfit that Peter Parker is wearing in certain scenes, in certain shots from it, are different than what he's wearing in the final release version of the game. And the same can be said with other characters. That's not a change because of technical limitations. That's just a change because they wanted to change the look of those characters because they thought it would look more appealing and kind of just fit some of those design choices with the more unified vision of the game. And the same obviously is going to apply to the game world, if I'm still kind of on track with the point here. So the fact that there's no puddle in this particular area of the game is not limitations. It's just something that happens in the development cycle where changes big and small are being made to the game world, are being made to the characters, and being made to, the game as a whole, both on a small and large scale, just to better fit their vision for the game. No conspiracy, no con artist bullshit tricks at play, just simply them doing everything in their power to make this game, the best possible product that it can be for when we, the players, play the game when it finally launches. And that's all that I really have to say about it. I mean, that's all I really have to say about that. But then again, what the hell do I know? I'm just a nerd who loves to read and is moderately knowledgeable about the development cycle of video games. And I also happen to be a cinematography student who knows a thing or two about lighting. But I mean, yeah, what the hell do I know? All kidding aside, that's really all I have to say about that. Hopefully some of that makes sense to you. I guess that I kind of want the takeaway to kind of be me asking two things of you. On one hand, do some research and reading. If you don't want to take my word for it, or don't just want to take my word for it, do some reading and research into this topic yourself. Look into the development cycle of other video games, kind of look at those kind of compare or contrast between promotional stuff done for the game compared to the final versions, and really try to narrow down the difference between apparent, downgrading or just minor changes, visual changes here and there to just kind of better fit their vision. I can think of a handful of major third-party games that have been released over the last several years, or even some PlayStation exclusives that have come out over the last couple of years that have had, similar changes that Spider-Man is going through, and that were not an instance of downgrading, but were just changes made to make a better visually looking game. And the games that ended up coming out were amazing looking. So just do research and reading into that to get a better idea of how that works and being able to tell the difference there, if you don't want to take my word for it, or if you do and just want to be more well informed. I guess that's what I'm getting at. The second thing I'm also going to ask of you is lower, or better yet, reevaluate your expectations. If you're someone that constantly has like those high expectations, that always kind of expects like the most perfect visual fidelity from games, not that, come on, deep down a lot of us do that, but what I'm getting at is I understand that a lot of us want to expect utmost perfection from the games that we play, but if we have like this immensely high bar for that stuff, then what we end up getting when we end up playing is probably not going to meet those expectations and is going to be really disappointing to us. So if you reevaluate those expectations and just understand that, as long as the game looks good, looks presentable, and is fun to play, that's all that really matters. And be surprised by how good the game actually looks with those reasonable expectations, rather than how underwhelming the game looks with immensely high expectations, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So what do you, the audience, think? Do you think I'm full of bullshit and don't know what I'm talking about, or do you agree with what I'm saying, or in some caliber or some way, shape, or form? Don't be afraid to post those thoughts in the comments, and let's have a conversation about it. I'd absolutely love to have a conversation about this. But anyway, that's all I have for now. Thanks very much for watching, and take care.